Think back to the last time you were truly sick. That disorienting fever, the dark 3 a.m. moment when you had no idea what was happening to your own body. Now multiply that terror by 1,000 and strip away every scrap of modern knowledge. No germ theory, no microscopes, no concept of bacteria or viruses. You are sick, people around you are dying, and you have no explanation at all. This was the daily reality for our ancestors, and the answers they built over hundreds of thousands of years of careful observation are far more sophisticated than we usually give them credit for. The most intuitive explanation, evil spirits, was not stupid. It was the logical conclusion from visible evidence. A person changes dramatically. Something invisible must have entered them. And while the theory was wrong, the treatments that grew from it were sometimes accidentally effective. Burning antimicrobial plants in medicinal smoke, isolating the sick in what we now call quarantine, using bitter compounds with documented antibacterial properties. These practices were not random. They were refined over generations by people who watched outcomes closely and kept what worked. Even more striking, multiple ancient civilizations independently arrived at concepts strikingly similar to germ theory. In 37 BCE, the Roman scholar Varro warned against building near swamps because they might contain tiny creatures, invisible to the eye, that enter through the mouth and nose and cause disease. 2,000 years before Pasteur and Koch confirmed the existence of pathogens. The ancient Indian Sushruta Samhita described microscopic organisms called krimi that invade the body. An Egyptian papyri from 1800 BC spoke of invisible agents transmitted through contact. These were not lucky guesses. They were conclusions drawn from observing that disease clusters near stagnant water and spreads between people. Perhaps the most profound ancient insight was the universal concept of balance. Greek humors, Chinese yin and yang, Ayurvedic dosha, indigenous healing traditions across every continent, all independently framed health as dynamic equilibrium and disease as disruption of that equilibrium. Modern systems biology, the cutting edge of medical research, now describes health in exactly the same terms: the balance of inflammatory and anti-inflammatory processes, the balance of the gut microbiome, the balance of hormonal feedback loops. We have changed the vocabulary from humors to biomarkers, but the structural framework is identical. Our ancestors had the right scaffold, even though they lacked the right detail. Beyond the physical, they also understood the psychological dimension of healing intuitively. The fundamental human fear, then and now, is the terror of invisible, uncontrollable threat. To cope, ancient healers built rituals, rules, and systems that gave illness a shape and gave the sick a sense of agency. Modern research on the placebo effect confirms that belief in treatment, community care, and structured ritual produce measurable physiological improvement: the release of endogenous opioids, the lowering of stress hormones, the activation of the vagus nerve. These are not tricks. They are evidence that the mind-body connection is real and powerful. Our ancestors knew this and placed it at the center of their healing. Ultimately, the story of ancient medicine is not a story of ignorance waiting to be rescued by science. It is a story of the most observant humans who ever lived, people whose survival depended on noticing every plant, every weather pattern, every symptom, and every outcome across generations. They made mistakes, sometimes harmful ones, but the direction of their inquiry was exactly right. Watch carefully, remember what works, share what you learn, build on what came before. That is the scientific method in its raw, essential form, practiced 200,000 years before we gave it. We did not rescue medicine from darkness. We inherited a luminous, constantly refined tradition from ancestors who refused to stop asking the question, what is making us sick and what can we do about it? Their legacy is not primitive superstition, but the foundational structure of every medical framework we use today. We owe them more than a footnote in history. We owe them the recognition that our modern understanding stands on the shoulders of people who turned fear into inquiry and chaos into ordered knowledge across tens of thousands of years of human attention. Subscribe and share this video.